Welcome to the Mass Youth Soccer Final Score podcast, assisting the development of players, coaches, referees, and administrators, one episode at a time. Now here's your host, Marcus Cole.
Welcome to the podcast. Excited to welcome our guest, Sid Bloom, Massachusetts Youth Soccer Hall of Fame member, class of 2013. Sid, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you, Marcus.
Nice to meet you as well. Heard a lot about you throughout my time here at Mass Youth Soccer, and excited to learn a little bit more about how Progin Park came to be. So in case people don't know who you are, and I'd be surprised if there wasn't somebody that didn't know who you were, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your time with Mass Youth Soccer and some of the things that you accomplished?
Well, my time goes back, as I said, about 40 years ago, when I got involved, like all parents, when their kids start playing soccer. And I was involved with the Framingham United Soccer Club. And little by little, I then got involved with Bays, the Bays Boston Area Youth Soccer. I served as president for Bays for 2 years after going up the ladder. And then at one point, there was a changeover, I believe. Again, this is over so many years ago. Could forget a few things, so hopefully I'll be more accurate. There was a change in the Mass Youth. Ray Robinson was elected president, and they needed a vice president. I was appointed as a vice president of Mass Youth Soccer, which thoroughly I enjoyed it. I'd been involved for quite a while, and actually, I served there for a couple of years, and finally, when Ray stepped down, I ran for president, and I served for president of Mass Youth for 8 years. It was during that time that we started to think about finding a home for Mass Youth Soccer. And again, a lot of this stuff I might forget. It's been a while, Marcus, but we went through a lot. We found some land. We went through ups and downs with it. We knew what we wanted. We knew it was going to cost a lot of money. And at the time, what we had to do, we felt the only way that we could possibly attain this was to put a $3 fee on all the membership of Mass Youth Soccer. And I, along with a couple of other people, we spent a lot of time. I talked to many, many town presidents to get this passed. There was a lot of pros and cons to it. We finally did get it passed, and we bought the land. And at one point we ran into a real problem. At one point, the bank did not want to go forward with us, and we needed to get the loan. Well, at that time, we had a treasurer who was really newly appointed. Let's say he had some connections, and we got some financing in order to buy the land. To be honest, we paid. The financing was steep. It was a bad time way back then. But however, we persevered. We got the membership to approve the land, to buy it. Once we were able to do that, and we did buy the land, we immediately was able to pick up a bank to finance it, to really get rid of the other lender, or I should say, not really lender, lender, to get a better interest rate to go forward. And then began the long haul. I was very fortunate at the time as president. I had a really great executive director, this fellow John Burrell, who came in as the Hall of Fame along with myself. John put a lot of hours in, did a phenomenal job. We had a great board of directors. One thing we had back then, and even I think today, we had people very, very committed to Mass Youth and to the youth in Massachusetts. A lot of time was put in by many, many people, and little by little by little, then we found the Progin family, I believe, we named the field after them. We were able to get some money, and we just moved forward. It took a while, a lot of heartaches, a lot of things we had to overaccomplish. We did it, and finally we were able to open I think, well, back then, the premier facility in all of U.S. youth soccer. For a state to do what we did at that time was very unique.
Yeah,
So
there's not many state associations that have their own complex. I think I can count them on one hand.
you're right. And we were very lucky. I mean, and the people that have worked over the years, my predecessors as president, the other boards have done a great job. I know recently it was totally renovated after, was it 12 years, I believe. It needed to be, and thank goodness the membership all agreed. And I think, and today I think we stand again with one of the best complexes in the country. We had some really, really good people who put a lot of work into it. And, yeah, I can say I did a great job, but I didn't do it alone. I did it with people who were committed to the youth of Massachusetts who play soccer. We went, we went through growing pains, and it wasn't a very easy process, with the town and all that stuff. And, and when we opened it, it was just a phenomenal thing, and I'm very proud of what I did to get it done.
Let me ask you this question. Why Lancaster? Out of all the places that you probably could have put this in why Lancaster? I know a lot of people have asked me that I think it's a wonderful location.
Well, at the time, there wasn't that much land around. I think we were fortunate that we were able to find it. Yeah, you could say Lancaster, it's not at the center of Mass Youth Soccer universe to a degree. When the bulk of your players are playing down towards the east, more, or it'd be the southern from there, you go into the bigger leagues. But it was also, we felt it was a good spot. I mean, again, I don't remember what we paid, honestly. But yeah, it's a $12 million+ complex. It's a phenomenal piece of work that was, a lot of people put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in it. And then, I got more involved in soccer, and I know you're from West Virginia. I have a lot of good friends out in West Virginia. In fact, I've been to their complex in 2009 when they opened up the fields. That was an experience. I don't know if you were involved back then.
I was there for the first regionals that was held there. I'm assuming you were there during the Black Hawk helicopter.
Yes, I was.
I have that video on my phone.
Well, I didn't see the Black Hawk because I was, at that time, I had stepped down as Mass Youth President, and I was a deputy director of Region 1. So I was out there as an administrator, and I was given the day that we had to close the fields down. There's a field that you probably know that's out near the airport.
Schoenbaum.
Right. And that's where I was for the entire day doing games. So I missed, again, I did see it on TV because it made a big splash. So it was
literally,
it was great. No, in fact, actually, I went back to Huntington about last May. I have a grandson that plays baseball at Marshall University. So I proudly wear the herd hat.
Excellent. What were some of the biggest challenges that you had early on in getting this project off the ground? Because like we said, there weren't many state associations, especially at that time, that had its own complex. I know Virginia, just recently got a complex within the last, 10 years, I think, or so. There weren't, obviously this was a big ask of, state associations don't have their own complex. What was the biggest challenges that you guys faced?
I think the biggest challenge was getting the membership to buy in. You're asking them to buy in. You're asking them to put in to get I don't want to call it a fee to every player to help cover the costs of what the payments are going to be. That took a lot of time. I can tell you, I spent many, many hours talking to many, many town presidents, club presidents. And, it took a while. We had a meeting, I think it was up in, maybe up in Leominster at the, where most of the meetings are held. We had a meeting. We had all the people came in, And thankfully, we were able to get enough votes. And it wasn't a unanimous, believe me. There were people who were against it, but we got enough people who did support it. But that to me was the biggest hurdle, was getting, and thankfully they did, was getting the towns to buy into such a humongous deal, because it was big. I mean, back then that was a huge undertaking. You look at it now today, well, maybe, but back then it was a tough. And if again, as I said earlier, the interest rates weren't great out there at one point, and we lost the financing, and then we were able to get the other financing, and thankfully we got it passed. We had the financials worked in our favor, and we're able to go. I forget the bank that we eventually went to that got the first that took our loan, and then the process of building it was. I mean, as I said, John did an amazing job. I mean, he was there constantly. A lot of people may not remember John or I. It's a different. I'm talking over 20 years ago. It's quite a different, long time ago. But to me, it was at that time was a crown jewel of U.S. youth soccer.
I agree. I remember when I got married and I heard that Mass Youth Soccer was building a complex. I'm originally from this area. I grew up in New Hampshire. So when we came up to visit my family after you built the complex, I told my wife we need to stop down there and check it out. And she was like, "Really? We're going to go check out a soccer?" Absolutely, we're going to go check out a soccer complex, because I wanted to see, because it was so unheard of a state association having a complex.
And also to put in, was it five turf fields? That was back then. That was something new really coming down the line. I mean, today it's like nothing.
Today it's if they're not putting in turf, they're like, oh,
no, it's like, well, perfect example. And you might know, take Marshall University. They just put in a $20 million baseball stadium.
Yep.
All turf. Beautiful. I was out there last May. Absolutely gorgeous. Town hasn't changed a bit, though.
Nope, not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
But,
so what are your thoughts? Obviously, you were in on the ground floor of the facility, and now that you see it, now known as SBLI Fields at Progin Park, how does that make you feel that after all these years, it's still there, it's still functioning and doing well, and kids from all across New England, New York, New Jersey are all coming up here and experiencing what you built from the ground up?
Well, as I think I said earlier, we've been very fortunate. All the folks that came after me as presidents, as board members, had the commitment to keep it a first-class facility. And I think it's the commitment of all those guys involved. They just published the top 50 people involved in Mass Youth Soccer. A lot of those people were the people that really helped build it. And there's others that are not there. They haven't been around that long, but it's their commitment to have such a facility, to be able to have, yes, would it be nice if more players from around the state could play? Absolutely. But it's a different age today. It's not 2009, 10, 11. It's 2024. It's totally different. There are so many other complexes around the state. Towns have built the turf fields. They've built, mini complexes. So it's an entirely different. So to see the fields at SBLI, Progin Park flourish, it's fantastic. It really is. I think it's really a commitment, if I get the right word, to the people who have done it from when it was built and keep working at it. As I said, there's been some great people who have followed my footsteps to be president, to be board members. We're very lucky. We really are. I mean, I'm not as involved in Mass Youth as I was back then. One of these days, I got to come back up. I haven't seen the fields in a long, long time. But, and I'm still involved in soccer. I still serve in the base board. It's something I've always enjoyed. To me, it's all about the kids. That's what it's about. Ego should not be anywhere involved. We do what's best for the kids. And I think what we did with Progin Park, SBLI, is for the kids. And it's glad to see that all these kids today and in future years are going to be able to join the fruits of what we did years ago.
As we kind of wrap things up here on the podcast with Sid Bloom, Mass Youth Soccer Hall of Fame member, class of 2013. We're celebrating 50 years of Mass Youth Soccer. As you mentioned before, we have a feature that we've been going with all year of the most influential over 50 years. A lot of the people that you've mentioned that were part of that group that was working on the complex and stuff like that. You're seeing us celebrate 50 years of being Mass Youth Soccer and being around. USU Soccer is celebrating 50 years, so they're right there with us. When you think 50 years of youth soccer in Massachusetts, how does that make you feel?
Oh, there's no question. It makes me feel phenomenal. I mean, I'll give you a quick one. I go back, first time I ever got involved, had anything to do with Mass Youth Soccer, goes back to I think it was 1985 or 86. I was coaching a youth team. Back then it was called under 10. Today it's grade, whatever it's all. And I took a team up to the Mass Tournament of Champions. That was the first time I really got involved with Mass Youth. And we had, back then, all our tournaments used to be up at UMass. So when you see what is today, and knowing the people, unfortunately, a lot of the people that are in that 50 are no longer with us, it's a shame. But there were some great people there. Did we have our own? Sure we did. But we had, again, as I said earlier, we had one thing in common. It's all about the kids. It really is. And even today, I mean, I watch my grandkids play different sports. And it's about the kids having fun. And I used to preach that to my kids. You gotta have fun what you do. And I look at my grandkids. They're having fun at what they do. They're not playing soccer, they're in different sports.
That's okay.
I know that. But the key is that word fun. It really is. And I think what has been accomplished and what will be there for many years to come, it's just a great tribute to those who worked hard and still work hard in keeping it a top-notch field complex. I really do.
Well, we're excited to celebrate 50 years and excited to celebrate another 50 years going forward. Sid Bloom, thank you so much for coming on the program today. I really appreciate it.
It's nice meeting you, Marcus, and thank you for the time to give a little background of what happened, how we built the complex at SBLI in Progin Park.
Thank you for listening to the Mass Youth Soccer Final Score podcast. Join us next time for another informative episode. Copyright 2024. All rights reserved.